Well, let's have an in-depth look then at Newcastle, Man City. A lot has been made of the Manchester derby and the psychological blow that potentially Manchester United have struck. 6 points could be 9 by the end of the weekend. I mean, an incredible situation when you look at the way that Manchester United have stuttered at times this season, which only then highlights more so the issues that maybe are going on at the scenes at Manchester City.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Manchester City have been anywhere near the level they played last weekend. I was at the Manchester derby. I've seen all their games. I went to all their Champions League games at home as well, and they were decent in the second half against Real Madrid, but they were nowhere near the level in those big games that they were last season. I think there's an air of complacency that seems to be in the squad. There's obvious sort of selection and tactical issues we saw last weekend with Tevez and Zeko being left out and Balotelli played, and that didn't make sense to a lot of outsiders, and Balotelli certainly didn't prove anyone wrong. And then there's the issue with Garcia, who they bought in the summer. He's not delivered, and none of their summer signings have delivered at all. So I think Man City's level seems to have dropped quite considerably from last season, but still they've only lost one Premier League game, so they're still in the chase.
Vincent Kompany, the captain, I did a piece with him this week, and he was talking about that they're not in any way bothered about this 6 points, psychological blows, all that. It's not in their makeup. They are now completely focused on a double winning season. They can go for the Premier League, of course, and they can go for the FA Cup. Would you be as positive as he is being, or is he being a captain?
Yeah, and you're being a sportsman. A sportsman will never admit defeat. Even maybe sometimes after you get beat, you don't admit it. So you just can't have no negativity in there at all. The thing is with me, when I look at Man City, I think Man City have been a lot like Man United have been in past years, where they get by because they're good enough in parts of games and they have a superior talent. I don't think they're fit enough, to be honest. I think they look leggy. I don't think they're running away from anybody. And also teams know that if they sit back against Man City, they'll get beat.
How can they not be fit enough? We've had this regime about Mancini and 2 sessions a day.
Yeah, but that's the thing.
That's the problem, Dom. That's the problem. I mean, a lot of them have got sort of bodybuilder physiques. You look at Kompany. I mean the musculature is very impressive. I think he's carrying too much. I think it's slowed him down. I think Yaya Touré's carrying too much. I think Nasri's a bit of a pudding. I don't think he's looks in good shape at all. Tevez has lost weight, but in the past he's been carrying a bit. I think and Les Scott as well. I think there's quite a few who are not in absolutely perfect shape, and it's not so much about having 2 fitness sessions a day. That can overdo it. It's all about rehabilitation and preparing.
But you think they get the balance right with everything that they have there?
Yeah, and it's amazing you've said that, because I sat there last weekend with some people watching the game in the house, and I actually questioned whoever was in charge of the regime. I think they've got it wrong. I really do, because you look at the way they played last year, they were sharp, they had pace all over the pitch. And now, you see the way that Man United ran away from them in certain situations last week. They weren't even close to being right. So certain individuals have got to have a little look.
Aguero's another one, actually. I think actually he looks slow and he looks leggy compared to 12 months ago. I thought after his first season, I thought he would be the best striker in the Premier League this season. I thought he'd absolutely tear it apart. He had that injury early on, but he's not really. He's showing the odd sign here and there, and his desire is always there. But I don't think he seems to have the pace to quite get away from the last defender at the moment.
Well, you look at the last few fixtures between these two sides, and of course it is the early kick-off at St James's, and Manchester City obviously have the edge historically, but again, really, I think people get a bit too hot and bothered about stats and figures and facts and whatever. Throw them out the window. Let's start again.
For me, Man City win this game. That they are champions after all, and it is a 2-horse race, and they cannot afford to slip up now. They've got no other distractions. They've got to right the wrongs from last week. So for me, Man City will win the game.
I watched Newcastle play against Fulham on Monday night, and Fulham outplayed them. I thought generally, there was a bit of a fight back from Newcastle second half. But Newcastle, their bench is weak. Their first 11 is good, it's strong, there's options and there's attacking options. But for me, their bench is weak, and that makes them beatable, because there's no one they can bring off from the bench who can actually change a game and turn a game and win a game. And
there's not enough creativity in the middle of the park for me. I mean, if he plays like Anita in there, then you're going to struggle, because you have Tiote and Anita, they're ball winners and they need someone to go and give the ball to. Caboyer's not there. Ben Arthur's injured. Even when he's playing, he's struggling. So, and I don't think that Cisse and Bar, they're too far away from each other. So for me, Man City will definitely win this game.
Now, Mancini signed a big contract, in the summer. Alan Pardew's contract, though, is off the scale from what we've heard. I think it's about 57 years, isn't it, or something? But
103.
But, I mean, what does that do to a manager? I mean, in a way, all right, it's a fantastic thing for a manager to get a contract and the backing of the chairman like that. Does it in any way impede on the hunger or the sense of nervousness that you might need to fire yourself up and to keep yourself on your toes? I mean, what kind of a man do you think he is?
I think that this 8-year contract isn't quite what it's been sort of dressed up to be. I think there's very strong and well-sourced rumours that actually, if he were to be sacked, he'd only get a year's payoff. So actually, it's fairly it's very much done to suit the club, and it's a bit of PR spin, I think, in a certain way. I don't think it would affect how Pardew does the job, but certainly there's been an effect from last season. I think playing in Europe doesn't help this squad. I don't think it's a big squad, and I don't think like Liverpool's not a big squad, but Liverpool a better place to cope with it than Newcastle.
I'll just give you some names that are not at the disposal of Alan Pardew. Since you've got Ryan Taylor, Stephen Taylor, Caballé, Vukic, Obertan, Ben Arthur's been struggling, and Dan Gosling. There's 7 players that you would expect to see regularly in a Newcastle starting lineup. He hasn't got them, and the players that come in, they're not up to speed or they haven't got the creativity.
Well, let's see if Stuart, who is a Newcastle fan, agrees with that. Alan Pardew, 8-year contract, players out, everything else. I mean, you've heard what Flash has got to say. How do you feel about everything, Stuart?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with you guys. I mean, the squad's not big enough to compete on 2 levels. We're doing okay in Europe, but it's draining our backup players, and they're not ready, some of them, to play in the first team. I mean, Sammy Amiobi's, the likes of him are going to be good players, I think, but they're not quite ready. They needed to go out on loan, and our main weakness is our defence, and we just haven't spent money, even just a little bit of money. We needed reinforcements because we've got Mike Williamson at the back, and he isn't a Premier League starter in my eyes, and it's just been a struggle for us this year.
Stuart, do you think, is it a bit of a worry that in January the only way the club are really going to spend money is if they sell one of their prize assets, and the one who's most vulnerable at the moment seems Demba Ba with the £7.5 million release clause?
It's always a worry with Mike Ashley. I mean, he's a money maker. He likes to get money in his pocket. He doesn't really like to spend it either, and I can see that happening. But if Ba does go, we've got Cisse in that role, and the system we're playing now, we need one focal point striker, and Pardew's been putting 2 out there, and it hasn't worked. He needs to keep one of them up front, probably Ba at the moment because he's in form, and then play someone like Marveau on the left and Ben Arthur on the right. Give you some creativity, because the 2 strikers working one of them out of position isn't working.
Sure, that's what I was going to say, because when I see Ba and Cisse, and normally when you see 2 strikers up front, which is a rarity in itself, they're too far away from each other. So it's almost that you're playing up front on your own, and you've got to do it on your own. And there is no creativity coming from the middle of the park in Anita or Tiote. So you know, if you're setting up against it, you know where the problems are going to lie, so you can set up for them.
Exactly. You're always going to know you're going to have one striker up front, and then you're going to have the other one out of position on the far right. He doesn't know how to position himself properly to play that position. And that's what Pardew's downfall has been this year. He's fit the system around the players rather than the other way around. And as you say, in the middle we've got Tiote and Anita. Tiote is a ball winner. Anita's he's feisty. He runs about a lot, but he's not going to create anything. He's going to play the simple passes. We are missing Kabay a lot, and it's a shame that we don't have Haris Vukic available, because he's a similar type of player to Kabay, not on the same level. I won't say that, but we are missing creativity.
Stuart, you're probably aware of the Peter Beardsley interview last night, I think, which was with a local station. He said Newcastle bid 17 million for Andy Carroll in the summer. Would you accept Demba Ba leaving and someone like Andy Carroll coming in, even if you're paying, say, an extra 8, 9, 10 million for someone like Carroll?
I'd look for other options, to be honest. I mean, I wouldn't pay 70 million for Andy Carroll. Demba Ba might go. He's got that clause in his contract, but we need to keep going down the route that we have been going. Look to cheaper players rather than spending £17 million on a centre forward when our main worry is at the back. We need to spend money on defenders if we're going to spend money.
Stuart, how are you feeling now ahead of the champions coming to your place? I mean, they've had a devastating defeat, a psychological blow, 6 points between themselves and Manchester United. Do you feel the backlash, or are you thinking, well, you know, there might be some buttons that our side can press to you know, get stuck into them and maybe get a result that we need as well?
I always have a feeling when we play the bigger teams at home, we do have a chance. We sometimes play these teams off the park, and then other weeks we won't. Because I mean, last season we absolutely destroyed Manchester United. Then this season they absolutely destroyed us. It depends what Pardew does on the day, what system he uses, and how the players fit at that. But I'm not expecting much from Saturday, to be honest.
Stu, what about the Newcastle fans? Are they getting impatient with Pardew? Because I get the feeling that they're not too happy about this 8-year contract, because obviously it's not worth the paper it's wrote on. But if they continue to go the way they are, they could be in the bottom 3 come Christmas.
Yeah, it's always a worry, and the Newcastle fans know that. Well, most Newcastle fans are already starting to get on the bandwagon of Pardew needs to sort out his tactics, needs to get in a few players. I wouldn't say anyone's asking for his head. They're just, because he's done a great job for a year and a half since he's taken over. We've gone places. It's a bad run of form, but most of the fans are still behind him. It's difficult to see where we go. We could if we go in the bottom 3, we do have the quality to get out of it, but it's up to the players if they want to fight for it or not.
Let me just show you something, Stuart. This is Flash's contract with Sports Tonight. It's about 15 years long, and he's tied and he can't go anywhere. Now, just before you go, just give us a prediction, your heart, your head, the game tomorrow, Newcastle United against Manchester City.
My heart wants to go for a 2-1 win, which is very unlikely. In my head, it could be anything. If our defence is playing like the way it has lately, it'll be 3-4-0 to Man City.
Stuart, thanks for your time. Enjoy the game.
I hope so.
Not uber optimistic. Flash, give us a result.
I'll go 3-1 because Newcastle can score goals.
You said Newcastle will beat Manchester City 3-1.
No, Man City will beat Newcastle 3-1.
2-1 Man City.
2-1.